running away from pain. Yet the moments that break us open are often the ones that shape us into who we're meant to become. Right now, as you're watching this, you might be going through something that feels impossible to bear. Maybe you're sitting in your car after a long day, feeling completely drained. Maybe you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., wondering how everything fell apart so quickly. Or maybe you're just tired. Tired of pretending you're okay when you're not. Tired of wearing that mask that's become too heavy to carry. Here's the contrast that will change everything. While most people see their darkest moments as evidence that life is against them, the ancient Stoics understood something profound. Our greatest pain often becomes our greatest teacher. The very experiences we try to escape are the ones calling us toward our truest strength. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire yet faced personal tragedies that would crush most people, wrote in his personal diary, "The mind that pursues the good, whether it achieves it or not, is honored by its very pursuit." He wasn't writing this for public praise. He was reminding himself that even in loss, even in heartbreak, even when everything seems meaningless, there's honor in continuing to seek what's good. I want to be honest with you about something. This video might make you cry, and I'm not sorry about that, because sometimes we need to feel the weight of our own strength. Sometimes we need to remember that we've survived every difficult day so far, and that's not a small thing. That's extraordinary. You see, we live in a world that tells us to avoid discomfort at all costs. Swipe away from anything that makes you feel. Buy something to fill the emptiness. Distract yourself until the feeling passes. But what if I told you that the very thing you're running from is actually the doorway to becoming who you're meant to be? The Stoics didn't have smartphones to escape into. They didn't have endless entertainment to numb their pain. When Marcus Aurelius lost children, when Epictetus was enslaved and tortured, when Seneca faced exile and death, they had to sit with their humanity. And in that sitting, they discovered something we've forgotten. Our pain is not our enemy. Our struggles are not evidence of our weakness. They are the raw material of our transformation. Right now, someone watching this is fighting a battle no one knows about. Someone is grieving a loss that changed everything. Someone is facing a fear that feels bigger than their courage. And someone is wondering if they have what it takes to keep going. I'm here to tell you something the Stoics knew. You do. Not because you're superhuman, but because you're human. This isn't going to be another video that tells you to think positive or pretend your problems don't exist. This is about learning to dance with your difficulties, to find meaning in your mess, and to discover that the very things breaking your heart might be breaking it open to hold more love, more wisdom, more compassion than you ever thought possible. So, here's what I need you to do right now. If this is speaking to you, hit that like button, not for me, but as a commitment to yourself that you're ready to hear some truths that might be uncomfortable but necessary. Drop a comment and let me know you're here, fighting your own battles with courage. Share this with someone who needs to remember their own strength. Subscribe to this channel because we're building a community of people who choose growth over comfort. And please, don't skip any part of this video. Every word is chosen carefully for someone who needs to hear it, and that someone might be you. The next few points aren't just ideas, they're invitations. Invitations to see your life differently, to find strength you didn't know you had, and to understand that your sensitivity, your struggles, your very human heart, these aren't weaknesses to overcome. They're superpowers waiting to be claimed. Let us know you're here by commenting this affirmation and standing strong. My pain is becoming my power. Number 1. The gift hidden in your worst day. Let me tell you about the day that changed everything for me, and maybe it'll help you understand why your worst day might actually be your greatest gift. It was a Tuesday. Isn't it always a Tuesday when life decides to teach us something we weren't ready to learn? I woke up thinking it was just another ordinary day. By evening, everything I thought I knew about myself, my relationships, and my future had crumbled. You know that feeling when the ground underneath you just disappears, when the story you've been telling yourself about your life suddenly doesn't make sense anymore? That's where I found myself, and maybe that's where you are right now too. Here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. Our worst days aren't punishments, they're revelations. Epictetus, who knew something about having terrible days, taught us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But here's the part we miss. He wasn't saying this from a place of privilege. He was saying this as a man who had been enslaved, who had his leg broken by his master, who lost everything that society said made life worth living. And yet from that depth of human suffering, he discovered something beautiful. When external things are stripped away, what remains is purely, authentically you. Your worst day doesn't define you, it reveals you. It shows you what you're made of when everything else falls away. I remember sitting in my car that night, crying in a way I hadn't cried since I was a child. Not the pretty tears you see in movies, but the ugly, soul-shaking kind that come from somewhere deep and raw. And in that moment of complete breakdown, something shifted. I stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what is this here to teach me? That question changed everything, because suddenly, instead of being a victim of my circumstances, I became a student of my own life. The pain didn't go away. It transformed into something useful. The fear didn't disappear. It became fuel for courage I didn't know I possessed. Your worst day is trying to show you something about your resilience that you can't learn any other way. It's revealing depths of strength you possess that comfort could never uncover. It's teaching you that you're not as fragile as you thought, not as powerless as you feared, and certainly not as alone as you sometimes feel. Think about it. Every person you admire, every story that moves you, every example of human greatness you've ever encountered, they all have one thing in common. They all had a day, or many days, when everything fell apart. And they all made the same choice you're being invited to make right now, to let that breaking become a breaking open. The gift hidden in your worst day isn't obvious at first. It's wrapped in confusion, tied with ribbons of pain, and delivered at the worst possible time. But inside that terrible gift is everything you need to become who you're meant to be. Inside is the compassion you'll have for others who are suffering. Inside is the strength you'll need for challenges you can't even imagine yet. Inside is the wisdom that only comes from walking through the fire and realizing you didn't burn. You were refined. Your worst day isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better chapter. Not better because life becomes easier, but better because you become stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more real. If you're ready to let your hardest moments teach you, drop this in the comments. My worst day revealed my best self. Number 2, why your sensitivity is your secret weapon. They told you that you feel too much, didn't they? That you're too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. Maybe they said it with concern, maybe with frustration, but the message was clear. There's something wrong with feeling so deeply in a world that seems to reward numbness. Here's what I wish someone had told you earlier. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw to fix. It's a superpower you've been taught to hide. Seneca, one of Rome's greatest philosophers, wrote letters to his friend that were so emotionally honest, so vulnerable, that 2,000 years later, they still make people cry. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." But here's what's beautiful about that quote. He wasn't writing it as cold philosophy. He was writing it through tears, through loss, through the kind of heartbreak that only someone who feels deeply can know. The Stoics weren't emotionless robots like people think. They were the most emotionally intelligent people of their time. They felt everything. They just learned to feel it without being destroyed by it. There's a difference between feeling deeply and drowning in those feelings. Your sensitivity allows you to experience life in high definition, while others are stuck watching a black and white TV. You know what your sensitivity really is? It's your ability to pick up on things others miss. When someone is hurting, you feel it in your chest. When something is beautiful, it moves you to tears. When something is wrong, your whole body knows it before your mind catches up. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom that can't be taught in books. Your emotions aren't random. They're information. They're your inner guidance system trying to tell you something important. When you feel anxious about a relationship, that's not you being paranoid. That's you picking up on real inconsistencies your logical mind hasn't processed yet. When you feel excited about an opportunity everyone else thinks is crazy, that's not you being naive. That's your intuition recognizing potential others can't see. The world needs people who feel deeply. We need people who care so much it hurts sometimes, because caring is what changes things. We need people who can sense when someone is struggling behind their smile, who can feel the beauty in a sunset so deeply they have to stop and appreciate it, who can sense injustice in their bones and feel compelled to do something about it. Your tears aren't signs of weakness, they're signs that you're fully alive. Your intense emotions aren't problems to solve, they're gifts to appreciate. Your ability to feel another person's pain isn't a burden to carry. It's compassion in action. Stop apologizing for feeling things deeply. Stop trying to numb what makes you human. Stop believing the lie that strength means feeling less. Real strength means feeling everything and still showing up, still caring, still choosing love even when it's scary, still believing in goodness even when the world gives you reasons not to. Your sensitivity is your secret weapon because it allows you to connect with people in ways that surface-level interactions never could. It allows you to create, to love, to inspire, to heal, not despite your deep feelings, but because of them. If you agree that sensitivity is your superpower, drop this in the comments. My sensitivity is my strength, not my weakness. Number 3. The art of losing everything and finding yourself. There comes a moment in every person's life when everything they thought they needed gets stripped away. Maybe it's all at once: a job, a relationship, a dream, a person you loved, gone. Or maybe it happens slowly, like watching your old life dissolve piece by piece until you wake up one day and barely recognize yourself or your circumstances. I want to talk to you about that moment, because if you haven't had it yet, you will. And if you're in it right now, I want you to know something. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. He wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Easy words to read, harder words to live. But he wrote them as a man who lost children, who watched his empire crumble, who faced betrayals that would break most hearts. He wrote them because he discovered something profound in his losses. When everything external is taken away, what remains is unshakably yours. There's something terrible and beautiful about losing everything you thought defined you. It's terrible because it hurts in ways you didn't know were possible. It's beautiful because it forces you to meet who you really are underneath all the titles, roles, possessions, and relationships that were never truly you anyway. You remember the day you lost what you thought was your entire identity. The career you had built for years, the relationship you believed would last forever, the future you planned so carefully. All of it vanished in what felt like minutes. You sat in an empty apartment surrounded by boxes, feeling like a stranger in your own life. But here's what nobody tells you about rock bottom. It's solid. You can build on it. When you have nothing left to lose, you have everything to gain. When all your old strategies stop working, you're forced to discover new ones. When your old identity crumbles, you get to choose who you become next. The art of losing everything isn't about learning to let go gracefully, though that comes with time. It's about learning to see loss as liberation. Every ending is clearing space for a beginning. Every door that closes is redirecting you toward a door that's meant for you. Every person who leaves is making room for the people who are supposed to stay. Your losses are not punishments for something you did wrong. They're not evidence that you're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. They're course corrections from a universe that knows better than you do what you actually need. They're invitations to stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting the process. Think about a tree in winter. It looks dead, doesn't it? Bare branches reaching toward a gray sky, no leaves, no visible signs of life. But underneath the surface, in the roots, in the core, life is happening. The tree is gathering strength for spring. It's not dying, it's preparing for rebirth. That's you right now if you're in a season of loss. You might feel empty, bare, broken, but underneath the surface, in places you can't see, you're gathering strength for your next season. You're developing roots that will be deeper than anything you had before. You're preparing for a version of yourself that you can't even imagine yet. The art of losing everything is really the art of finding yourself. Not the self you thought you were supposed to be, but the self you actually are. Not the self that needs external validation to feel worthy, but the self that knows its worth comes from within. Not the self that breaks when circumstances change, but the self that bends and grows stronger. Number 4, the beautiful truth about your broken dreams. Right now, someone watching this is mourning a dream that didn't come true. Maybe it was the business that failed, the relationship that ended, the career that never took off, the life you planned that got derailed by circumstances beyond your control. You're sitting there wondering if you're a failure, if you should have tried harder, if you're destined to always fall short of what you really want. Let me tell you something that might sound crazy at first. Your broken dreams aren't failures. They're redirections towards something better than you could have imagined. Epictetus taught us something revolutionary. Don't demand that things happen as you wish. Instead, wish that they happen as they do happen. But he wasn't teaching passive acceptance. He was teaching us that our attachment to specific outcomes often blinds us to better possibilities that are trying to unfold. Imagine someone who spends 3 years chasing a dream that consumes every waking moment. They sacrifice relationships, health, sleep and joy, everything, for one vision of success. But then that dream suddenly crumbles, and in the aftermath, it feels like they've wasted the best years of their life on something that was never meant to be. They feel angry at the universe, at themselves, and at everyone else who seems to be living their dreams while theirs lies in ruins. But here's what they couldn't see in the middle of that heartbreak. That broken dream was actually breaking them open. It was clearing the way to discover new dreams they never even knew existed. The skills they developed while pursuing that path became the foundation for something completely different and far more fulfilling. The connections they made, the person they became, the resilience they built, none of it was wasted. It was all preparation for a life they couldn't have planned, but one that was perfect for who they were becoming. Your broken dreams aren't evidence that you're not good enough. They're evidence that you're being called towards something that aligns with who you really are, not who you thought you should be. Sometimes we have to lose the dreams that were never truly ours to make space for the ones that are. Think about it this way. When a river encounters a boulder, it doesn't see it as failure. It flows around it, finding a new path that often turns out to be more beautiful than the original route. That boulder isn't stopping the river. It's creating a more interesting journey. Your broken dreams are teaching you things about yourself that success never could. They're showing you that your worth isn't tied to achievements. They're revealing strengths you didn't know you possessed. They're developing a kind of wisdom that only comes from having your heart broken open and choosing to keep it open anyway. Maybe the relationship that ended was protecting you from settling for less than the love you deserve. Maybe the job you didn't get was steering you toward work that actually feeds your soul. Maybe the dream that felt so important was actually too small for the person you're becoming. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I'm not saying you shouldn't grieve what didn't work out. Feel the disappointment fully. It's part of being human. But don't let that grief convince you that you're not meant for beautiful things. Don't let one closed door make you believe that all doors are closed. Your broken dreams are composting into soil for new dreams to grow. Dreams that fit you better. Dreams that honor who you've become through the breaking and rebuilding. Dreams that you couldn't have dreamed when you were still holding so tightly to the old ones. Trust the process, even when you can't see where it's leading. Trust that your life has an intelligence that's working for you, not against you. Trust that what feels like an ending might actually be the most important beginning you'll ever experience. If you're ready to trust that broken dreams lead to better ones, drop this in the comments. My broken dreams are becoming better dreams. Number 5. Why your struggle is sacred. I need to tell you something that might change how you see every difficult moment in your life. Your struggle isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's not something going wrong, it's something going right, just in a way you weren't expecting. We live in a culture that treats struggle like a disease to be cured as quickly as possible. Pop a pill, buy a solution, think positive thoughts, manifest your way out. But what if the very thing we're trying to escape is actually the most sacred part of our human experience? The Stoics had a beautiful concept they called amor fati, love your fate. Not just accept it, not just tolerate it, love it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate associates you." He was saying that our struggles aren't random punishments, they're perfectly placed teachers. I remember sitting with a friend who was going through a divorce after 20 years of marriage. She kept apologizing for crying, kept saying she should be stronger, kept beating herself up for not being able to get over it faster. And I realized something heartbreaking. We've been taught to be ashamed of our struggles instead of honoring them. Your struggle is sacred because it's turning you into someone you couldn't become any other way. That anxiety you carry, it's teaching you empathy for others who fight invisible battles. That depression that feels like a weight on your chest, it's deepening your capacity for joy in ways that easy happiness never could. That loss that broke your heart, it's breaking it open to hold more love than you thought possible. Every person who has ever made a real difference in this world, every teacher, healer, artist, leader, innovator, they all have one thing in common. They all struggled. They all faced moments when they wanted to quit. They all wondered if they were strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough, and they all discovered that their struggle wasn't their weakness. It was their qualification. You can't comfort someone through their darkest night if you've never experienced your own. You can't guide someone through grief if you've never lost something precious. You can't inspire someone to keep going if you've never wanted to give up yourself. Your struggle is giving you credentials that no university could provide and wisdom that no book could teach. But here's the part that makes it sacred. You get to choose what your struggle means. You can let it make you bitter or let it make you wise. You can let it close your heart or let it break it open to hold more compassion. You can let it convince you that life is unfair or let it teach you that life is difficult for everyone. And that's what makes human connection so beautiful. Your struggle is also sacred because it's temporary. Not in the sense that it will disappear completely, but in the sense that it's always changing, always moving, always transforming you into someone new. The you who entered this struggle is not the same you who will emerge from it, and that transformation, that's the sacred part. Right now, in this moment, you are in the middle of becoming someone incredible, someone who has walked through fire and chosen to see it as purification rather than destruction, someone who has faced their worst fears and discovered they were stronger than they knew, someone who has been broken and chosen to let the cracks become where the light gets in. Your struggle is sacred because it's yours. It was designed specifically for you by a universe that believes you can handle it. Not easily, not without scars, not without tears, but ultimately, victoriously. Number 6. The courage to start over. There's a moment that comes to all of us, maybe more than once, when we realize we have to start over. Not because we failed, not because we gave up, but because we've outgrown who we used to be, and the life we built for that person no longer fits. Starting over at 25 feels like an adventure. Starting over at 35 feels terrifying. Starting over at 45 feels impossible. Starting over at any age when you thought you had it all figured out, that takes a kind of courage that not everyone understands. Seneca, who lost his fortune, his position, and eventually his life, understood this courage intimately. He wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." What he meant wasn't that we should live longer. He meant we should live more fully, even if that means starting over when staying comfortable would be easier. Imagine a woman in her early 50s who decides to leave a successful law career to become a school teacher. To many, it looks like she's lost her mind. Why walk away from financial stability and a respected profession to start at the bottom of a completely different field? Why choose uncertainty over comfort? But for her, it's not about escaping something bad. It's about answering a deeper calling. Working with children reignites a passion that had been buried for years. She rediscovers why she once fell in love with learning, and that clarity makes the leap worth it. Starting over isn't about erasing your past. It's about integrating everything you've learned into something that serves who you're becoming. Every mistake you made, every lesson you learned, every skill you developed, none of that disappears when you change directions. It all becomes part of your foundation for building something new. The courage to start over is really the courage to trust yourself more than you trust other people's opinions. It's choosing growth over comfort, possibility over security, authenticity over approval. It's saying, "I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I can't stay where I am." Maybe you're sitting there right now knowing you need to start over in some area of your life. Maybe it's a relationship that's been dead for years, but you're scared to be alone. Maybe it's a career that pays the bills but kills your soul. Maybe it's a version of yourself that everyone expects you to be, but that feels like wearing clothes that no longer fit. Here's what I want you to know. Starting over isn't giving up. It's growing up. It's the difference between accepting what is and creating what could be. It's the difference between surviving your life and actually living it. The world needs people who have the courage to start over because you show the rest of us that it's possible. You prove that we're not stuck with our first choices, our past mistakes, or other people's expectations of who we should be. You demonstrate that life is a series of beginnings, not just one long middle with a disappointing end. Starting over means you get to take everything beautiful from your past and leave behind what no longer serves you. You get to keep the wisdom and release the regret. You get to honor who you were while embracing who you're becoming. Yes, it's scary. Yes, people might not understand. Yes, you might fail or struggle or wonder if you made the right choice. But here's what's scarier: getting to the end of your life and realizing you never had the courage to begin the life you actually wanted to live. Your future self is counting on your present self to be brave enough to start over, to choose possibility over predictability, to trust that you're strong enough to build something beautiful, even if you have to start with just your bare hands and an open heart. If you've made it this far, something inside you knows that this message was meant for you. Not because your life is harder than anyone else's, but because you're ready to see your struggles differently. You're ready to stop running from your pain and start learning from it. You're ready to stop apologizing for feeling deeply and start using that sensitivity as a superpower. Here's what the Stoics knew that we forget. We are not victims of our circumstances. We are students of our own lives. Every difficulty is a curriculum designed specifically for us. Every loss is making space for something better. Every ending is really a beginning in disguise. The tears you've cried while watching this video aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of recognition. Your soul recognizing its own strength, your heart remembering its own resilience, your spirit awakening to its own power. You came into this world with everything you need to handle whatever comes your way. Not easily, not without scars, not without moments when you want to give up, but ultimately, successfully. Your struggles are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that you're alive, that you care, that you're growing into someone extraordinary. As Epictetus said, you are an actor in a play, which is as the author wants it to be. Your role might involve struggle, heartbreak, starting over, feeling too deeply, losing things you love. But it's your role, and you're the only one who can play it. The world needs what you have. It needs your sensitivity, your struggles, your story of falling apart and putting yourself back together. It needs proof that people can survive their worst days and still choose to love, to hope, to believe in beauty. So, here's what I want you to do right now. If this video moved something in you, hit that like button as a promise to yourself that you're going to stop seeing your struggles as problems and start seeing them as preparation. Drop a comment and tell someone else who needs to hear this that they're not alone. Share this with someone whose heart needs these words. And subscribe to this channel because we're building a community of people who choose to see their difficulties as doorways to becoming who they're meant to be. Remember,